Hi, it's Kamon Reynolds, and it is HAWT hot here in Tennessee. Heat indexes feel like temperatures around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is the first time all year I've actually agreed with the weather forecast. It does feel that hot. The bees, it affects them in a lot of different ways, and we're going to get into a couple hives here real quick. It affects us in a lot of different ways. This being one of them right here. We got a creek just right over there, and so we jumped in a few minutes ago, took a little bit of about a 40-minute break or so after doing some work, and we're going to do a little bit more here in a second. But this time of the year we have to be really careful, try not to work during the heat of the day, work early, work late. Try to do what you can when you can, but at the same time you can get too hot. Now the bees over here, I've got 50 colonies in this yard, and I've got a couple empty spots. I always like to, in every bee yard, have a few locations that I can make splits into, because I have queens that, like right now, I need to make probably another 15 to 20 splits with some new queens, and so I'm constantly needing places to go. And this colony right here, it hasn't been split from yet this year. Most of them over here have at least once. Now I think I pulled bees from it a little bit, but not like a big split, and so that's why it's bearding more. Some of these are bearding less. We have different sizes. I think the smallest colony in this yard is probably 6 frames strong, give or take. The bees are just fanning. There's just a trickle of pollen coming in. Hey, by the way, we're going to be doing a live chat tonight. What is it, the 18th? Yeah, the 18th. So we'll see you later tonight. If you want to be on that live chat, we'll be talking all things dearth period. Summer is rough here on the bees and the beekeepers. A lot of different things that we do, and we'll be showing you more of things. Every colony in this yard got a pollen patty earlier. We dropped almost 50 pounds of sub in this yard. I wish I could throw more, but the small hive beetles are a bit of an issue. It was all ultra bee. Alright, so let's get into some colonies over here. Just look at this fanning right here. There's not a whole lot of forager bees. There's no nectar being added, so any colonies that are light on honey have to be fed. All of the splits have to be fed. The protein levels are down. The colonies that have lots of bee bread are great, but the ones that don't, especially the splits or late swarms or cutouts, which we're fixing to get into one of those, they're going backwards in a big way, because that bee bread is so vital here in July and August. And we do see a trickle of pollen coming in, but it's just not enough to sustain a colony to grow. And you don't know where it's coming from. My dad planted some sweet corn a bit a ways over there, and they've been working that. That pollen's no good. You know, when there's not a whole lot, they'll go for anything. Let's get into some colonies. So I'm going to leave a link right up here where you can see where this colony came from. It's a very short video. It was a swarm that just went into this box. We were working some bees that we had over there that we they're not over there anymore. They're there temporarily, and it just flew right on in. Now I just split this hive. We're going to check the split here in a second. And I'm hoping I don't get stung on the legs. We'll find out. It's good for you, right? Alright, so you can look down in here, and I can see there's still plenty of honey. There's plenty of resources. I mean, there's just tons of it right here on the top. So that's good. But we need to see how the brood looks now. I threw a pollen patty down here. At one earlier, so. Oh, goodness. Yeah, you can see the pollen patties. I've got some. Most of them we use paper for, and some of them we just threw some in, and I'm still trying to figure out which method I prefer. This is faster, but I still am leaning towards using the paper. It's kind of a pain to make so many patties doing it yourself, but I'm thinking we may just purchase bulk pre-made patties next year and save ourselves some time. You can see the treatment strips in here. Yeah, that's not a great brood pattern, but it looks alright. For this time of the year, I'll take it. There's a little bit of bee bread in the side that's so valuable. Colonies naturally decline depending on what's coming in. There's not a whole lot coming in, so even with the feed that we're giving them, we will not get the brood production that we would get in spring. And in spring, you know, you just see all kinds of just pollen in different colors, and you just don't see that right now. So it's important that you have stored up bee bread here at this time. Now I know for some of you, this is, you know, the golden time of the year for you all further north. Here in places like Tennessee and South Carolina and Georgia, it depends on where you're at. Some people in Tennessee are still having some flows that we don't. That is for sure. So lots of bee bread over here, and that's just the difference. You'll see some colonies that really struggle in summer in areas like ours. And a lot of times it's because they don't have enough proteins and fats. Queen's great. She just doesn't look great. Colonies declining. This queen's good. This queen's just fine. We'll show you her split here in 1 second. And I was pretty happy with the way the split turned out. You got to keep in mind also, since that split's only a couple weeks old, that really put a hurt into the population. That frame over there looks pretty good. You know, that looks good. So the main thing we want to see is that they're maintaining a halfway decent population. There's eggs down in here. They're eating our sub. The small hive beetles have definitely made a resurgence now that it's been stinking hot. You can really see the bees eating at the patties. That's good. We're just trying to help keep the protein levels high. You know, we're feeding sugar syrup to those that don't have heavy double deep boxes like this. And some people are like, oh, you're artificially feeding your bees. You're doing them a disservice. You're making them weaker. Fiddlesticks. I used to believe that years and years ago, and I have found that to not be the case. What we're doing is we're keeping our bees as healthy as possible in a colony that's large as possible. So when all this stuff over here, and look at these beautiful plants. This is wing stem right here. You see all these stems have like wings on them? It's also called the golden honey plant. When all this blooms and some of the ragweed and the ironweed and the goldenrod and all this wing stem starts blooming, the aster, our bees need to have low mite levels, and they need to be strong in population, have a lot of forager bees, because our fall flow might only be a few weeks long, and they've got to capitalize on it. And I find feeding some of this in the summer, keeping those populations up, helps them be healthier, because bees that have incoming food are better at hygienic behavior. It also helps flush out their guts. There's a lot of pros to feeding bees sugar syrup, especially when they need it. And then on top of that, again, I have a bigger population that when the natural stuff comes in the fall, they're able to really capitalize on that. All right, let's put this hive back together. Now, I left the original queen in here. I marked her with a 2019 green marker. And she's somewhere down in there because, more than likely, she was last year's queen. I mean, I can't remember when I uploaded the video. It was in early April, I think, or late March. And so, obviously, she came from last year's queens, at least. Who knows, she might be 2 years old. Now, I'm going to smoke these bees down more than I usually do to get them off of that patty. Uh-oh, check this out. Oh, no, I missed it. I was trying to get it on my hive tool. Oh, well, it was a bee with a big old baskets of bee glue. Alright, we're going to smoke these bees up. So this colony looks great, and the feed's going to help them do even greater. They have all the resources that they need. Oh, yeah, feels good. And now let's get into the split. And then we're going to check a hive that was a cutout on a swarm trap that I left up the year before. I didn't put up any new swarm traps. I think I had about 5 or 6 that I left up from last year that either didn't catch anything or I rebaited last year. I just don't have really time to fool with them, and I let them go. And oh my goodness, I didn't put frames in some of them, and oh yeah, we might have a video on that coming up. So here's the split over here, and a little syrup feed in this one, couple pollen patties. Let's go ahead and get these patties out of the way. And you can see the strips in there. I'm doing a little bit of truck driving here and there, filling in, especially on these stinking hot days. So we just need something that's going to kill those mites and keep them low. And we'll see. I haven't ever done it to this extent, so we'll let you all know how they work for us this year. Got brood in that frame over there. That's really good. I'm going to leave another link right up here if you want to see how I make a lot of my splits this time of the year. It's pretty much the same way I made this one. Now, of course, I had some drawn combs to throw in here, which really helps this time of the year, because bees don't want to draw a comb this time of the year. You can force them a little bit sometimes, but it's hard. Alright, so we've got a lot of feed over here. Check this cell down here. It's dry. They're just cleaning it out. So a little bit of brood. Trying to look down in there, see what's going on. A little bit of bee bread. Excuse me. The main thing right now is we're just trying to sustain this colony and keep it somewhat going forward until that fall pollen hits. So you can see some syrup down in there. There's a little bit of honey left over from the split. There's brood. Some people are like, oh, the pattern's terrible. Well, there's a lot of resources down in there. It's hard to get really good patterns this time of the year. We do have some colonies you'll look in them and they'll have those perfect patterns, but you see a lot less of that this time of the year because the nutrition's just not as good. The queen might be laying those patterns, but they'll go back through and cannibalize some of them in accordance to what they feel like they can expend nutritionally. Alright, this one feels pretty fat. Yeah, it's full of food. Let's see if she's over in here or something. Oh yeah, more larvae and stuff. I don't see her, but I see tons of eggs down in there, and just bunches of eggs. Honestly, they're pretty full on resources. Once I get some more supers extracted, I'll put another box on here so they can move some of this nectar slash, well, mostly sugar syrup out of the way. Woo, 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 woo. Oh my goodness. I just shook bees all on my legs. Do not do this at home. I'm glad these bees are nice, gentle bees that we raise. It doesn't mean they won't sting you though. They definitely will do that. Get on out of here. Nothing to see. Alright, well, let's go on to the next hive. I'm going to come back onto this one, and I think I'm going to throw in, I want to actually take out a frame of food and replace it with a frame of this drawn comb, and I'll give it to some other colony that needs some more weight added to it. Got too much feed in that one. Okay, yeah, here it is. Whew. Some hot weather beekeeping here. Alright, here we go. Finally found the right one. You can see where we've got the feeder over here. And they're already going down in there and sucking up that syrup. And they'll do just fine. Any bee that drowns in a feeder like that, there's something wrong with that bee. It's old. The feed's really cold. So it lowers their body temperature, or they have viruses or something like that, which basically just makes the bee sick and weak like an old bee. Alright, so you see the patty here. This population's not real big, but this was a swarm trap. Anyway, so I set out, or I didn't set out any this year, but I had some from last year, and I still caught 3 swarm traps, not using any lemongrass or swarm commander or anything like that. There was a little comb. Usually I have at least 1 old comb in them, and then just a box. And you know, I've got videos on that too, but it's amazing sometimes how you can just get some free bees just sticking out a swarm trap. You see the patty right there? I've already started chewing away at it a little bit. That's nice. So you can see all these rubber bands here, and in my swarm traps usually I have foundation in there, or at least some starter strips. Well, this one I did not have any, so we had to cut stuff out and rubber band it in place. And you can see where the bees have attached it. They're doing a really good job. I'm actually surprised how well it worked out. It was a pain in the rear end though. Oh my goodness. You know, some guys and gals do that all the time, and you know, my hat's off to them. It's a lot of work. I really am not a fan of it. You can see the apame frame right here, where they have, I had some smaller pieces that I put in there, and I'm hoping a good flow will help them draw those out all the way. Thankfully, a lot of the combs were somewhat straight, so that was nice. Let's see if we got any brood down in here. Now this one is, I was like, wow, this one's really nice. This is probably the frame that was left in there that looked good. And you know, supposedly if you stick it in, one in there good. Oh, there's the queen right there. Swarm queen. Who knows? I mean, this came from an area that I don't have any bee yards even close to, so it wasn't ours. Yeah, there she goes, but oh yeah, look at that milky larvae down in there. I don't know if you can see that with the angle, but oh, look, you see that propolis basket right there? Do you see that, Laurel? Right in the center? Let me that's what I was wanting to show you earlier. They're bringing in all this propolis and they're sealing things up, and it helps with other things in the hive. It helps keep it sanitary and clean. But this time of the year you see a lot of it because there's not a lot of other work to do, and so you know, they find other chores. Those are some big baskets. Thankfully we got some bee bread over in here. A little bit of drones in here. Alright. Now I don't know why that's in there. That must have been attached to one of these frames or something that I put in here, because I know that I didn't have any queen cells that I put in here. That one of those over there I think is an extra comb that I gave them. Oh wow, that looks good. So not that side as much. I'm surprised they haven't chewed through the rubber bands more. You have to be careful with these frames, make sure they don't fall on out. They'll be very fragile for a while. Yeah, but most of this comb was, you know, brand spanking new this year. You can see some of it's getting pretty dark already from where they're laying brood and whatnot in there. Move, move, move. Alright, you see more brood. So anyways, the main thing is we got that pollen patty in there, just hoping to keep this colony going forward. You can use rubber bands. I think I usually had 3 for one this size, so they've already nipped 2 of these off here. Yeah, there's 2 other ones. You can kind of see where the lines were here in the middle and over in there, but it's good. The queen's looking good. It was quite a job to cut it out. I probably should have done a video on it, but I was not very happy. You know, but we already caught the bees. The work needed to be done. If I would have just put in some foundation or some starter strips, they would have just built it straight. It would have been less stressful on the bees, less stressful on us. It would have been better all the way around. But anyways, you can see what we're doing right here, just trying to take care of our bees to the best of our ability. Hey, 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 stay out of there. And You see where the bees are going down, getting that nectar. If you looked at a lot of those frames, there wasn't a whole lot left, and I don't expect to see any nectar until September. So that's a good month and a half away. Brutal hot days, lots of energy required to cool the hive down. Lots of energy. Anyways, a lot going on. Summer beekeeping is actually my least favorite. I am not a huge fan at all of July or August. If I'm not in the creek or the rivers or the lakes or on the ocean, you can have summer. I'd rather have winter. That's just the way that I am. I hate sweating. And it's honestly, this is the hardest part of the season for our bees. If you can eliminate the varroa mites and keep them at a low level, and you can get your bees through the summer dearth and coming out on the other end looking pretty good, then I feel like things are going to be looking up for you. Spring is over. That's the end of our season. 1st of June, it's done. So we are in the longest we're part away from the best times of the year for our bees. Fall is kind of hit or miss for us, and I do enjoy fall, but just keep in mind when your spring flows and stuff are over, everything that you're doing from then moving forward is preparation for the next season. We're already thinking about next spring, and everything that we do right now impacts that. We don't really have hard winters here at all. So I don't worry about winter. I worry about summer, bees looking good in the fall, and then I rest easy in wintertime. Now people up in the cold parts of the world, winter's different. Anyways, we'll maybe see you on the live chat later, and we can talk more about this stuff, and hopefully you all are having a nice summer that's not 100 crazy degrees. Thanks for watching.